Hello, 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 you guys, and welcome back to Out the Dark Season 3 premiere. Whoop, 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 whoop. I hope y'all missed us. We missed you. We missed you. You already know who I am. I'm
I'm
LaCrystal.
Tiana.
And today we have a very special guest. Tiana, would you
Wow.
do us the honors of introducing our guest?
Yes, if I could just get a round of applause. We have Miss Cheria Morgan, Miss Cheria. Let me tell y'all, I met Miss Cheria. Oh my God, it's probably been, is it over 2 years now? Over
Hmm.
2 years now.
Yep.
She was a blessing sent from God to help me on my journey to become a LCSW for my therapy license. And from there, we have journeyed this thing together, not only on a career type of thing, but spiritual, just her pouring into me. And God has just blessed me with her as a gift to my life, and just being able to guide me on this thing that we all need help with. So, Miss Morgan has been able to be a part with us today, and I'm just very grateful that she's here. And I'll let Crystal just expound on why she's here.
Yes,
Okay.
Miss so such a pleasure to have you on After Dark. And
Yes.
it's so crazy because I met you at Tiana's conference. You spoke and everything. And so when we had a conversation afterwards, I was like, T, was that the lady? And she was like, yeah. So I was like, oh my God. So this is like a full circle moment. Like that's crazy how God will just group you with people that you don't even know that you
Mm,
don't like interact with. But
mm,
Miss Morgan came about when we were discussing the season. I heard God say it's time for After Dark to start back up, and He was like, "This season is pretty much. I want my people to. What did He say? I want my people to step into the light." And He was
mm,
like, "This season is going to be so serious," and He was like, "I want you all to take it super serious because when I gave you the title Out the Dark, it was a mandate." He was like, it's one thing to tell somebody, oh, come out of the dark. He was like, because they can enter back in. But when I tell you and call you to do something, I'm like, it's a mandate. I'm serious. Like it's a demand out the dark. And so when he said that, I was like, oh my God, that is so crazy. And so when I was telling T about it, she was like, I know someone, Miss Morgan. She's like, Sharia. And she literally was talking about out of the shadows. And when she
mm,
said that, I was like, oh my God, this is the person who we need to have. Because I was like, see, who do
mm.
you think? And she was like, tell you, this is the person. So, Miss Sharia, explain to us and kind of like expound on what it means for you to step out of the shadows. Like, what does that look like for you?
Yes. So first, I want to say thank you for inviting me into your space. I'm so excited to be able to commune with you and share this moment and this experience.
Mhm.
Out of the shadows. Wow. Out of the shadows is a movement, right? And for a while, I felt God like pulling me and pushing me into leadership, but I didn't understand why or how or what the vehicle would be or what it would look like. But I could feel Him like, it's time to stop hiding. And I'm like, hiding? Like, I'm not hiding. I'm right here. And He's like, yes, you are. I've called you to lead. And although you are great at supporting others' dreams and helping them to become the best versions of themselves, you made that a lifestyle. It's time for you to support yourself and push yourself forward and allow me to work through you because it's your time out of the shadows.
Yeah,
That's dope.
that's good. That just
Yeah.
reminds me of like our comfort zones. Like it's one thing to help
Mm,
other people. Like both of you are therapists, so it's like that's kind of like in y'all nature. And
mm,
so for me, I kind of feel like I went through a season where I feel like God was like, it's time to step out into the unknown. And when he was saying that, I was like, okay, but I'm already doing it. I mean, I feel like I'm in my purpose, but on this journey that I've been on personally, I feel like purpose is ever unfolding. I feel like we're not just contained to one purpose. Like once you pretty much maximize what he can do with you in that capacity, what he has called you to do, he'll flip it. It's something else that you could do. But when we look back in hindsight, it all tied to Jesus. And so, like for me, stepping out of the shadows is kind of like coming out of your comfort zone. It's like
Mm,
him saying like it's a time out for the hiding. And even though it don't seem as though we're hiding, but it's like he sees the longevity of it. So it's kind of like we're stumping our growth, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes, yes. I feel like that's absolutely right. And out of the shadows for me has not only been leadership, but it's also been my testimony. It's also been for him, it was knocking shame and guilt off of the things that I've been through and embarrassment and pushing me to open my mouth and to share with people what I've been through and what my experiences are. And it's like the more I share my testimony, as embarrassed as I may feel, there's at least one person every time I share it that comes to me and says, "Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, you changed my life." I had a lady, she walked up to me yesterday and she said, "You shared something on your story last week. I can't even remember off the top of my head what it is, but I have it on my refrigerator right now." She said, "I had to write it down, like it meant everything to me." So I feel like in this season of Out of the Shadows, God is really pushing me to share my testimony and to not be ashamed, because I can count how many times I posted something because I felt spirit led. And then I'm sitting there like, I'm about to delete it. I'm about to delete it. And I can feel the spirit like, don't you dare. Don't you dare. And I'm like, I'm deleting. I'm deleting. He's like, no, we're not. And I leave it. And then somebody comes to me and they're like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, you normalized that for me, or you helped me through something. So I feel like Out of the Shadows for me in a lot of ways is letting my testimony talk.
That's good.
That's good.
And the Bible even says we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it's like, I
Yes.
even feel like the enemy will try to keep us in these shadows of our own testimony. And like you said,
Mm,
being able to get over that guilt and the shame from it in order to release it, and other people are able
mm,
to be healed, the very thing that we had to go through. And sometimes, they even say like, we go through certain things, but the stuff that we go through isn't always for us. It's for whoever will go through it next. So
right.
God is good. God is.
Yes, yes. I remember going through a time where the season for me was taming my testimony. And I kept hearing him say that to me. He was like, "Tame your testimony." And I would ask him like, "What does that mean?" And I feel like for me, when I was in a season of taming my testimony, it was me understanding it. So many times we just go through things and we just push forward, right? Because the emotions are too hard to bear that are attached to the things that we do, but it guides how we act subconsciously. It triggers us. It hides us. It keeps us in the shadows. So when I was going through the season of taming my testimony, it was like God was walking me through all the things that I had been through and helping me to understand that I only did the best that I knew how to do in those seasons. Me judging what I've been through then is unfair to me because I didn't know the things that I know now. So as he was healing me and allowing me to tame the emotions attached to my testimony, even with speaking of it, not speaking with rage in the background, like, yeah, I went through it, just being able to just speak from a place of, I've been through this, this was my experience, was big for me being able to come out of the shadows as well.
That's good. That's good.
So, so
Okay.
I want to ask if I could, and at the extent that you're willing to share, what do you
Mm.
feel? What is your testimony?
Wow. It's like, how long do we have? I feel like it was just understanding. My testimony was just understanding the decisions that I had made for my life. Um, I've been through a lot, and I only was making the best decisions that I knew how to make at that time. Um, yeah, I don't even know where to start with that because there were so many things. Like when I first began to tame my testimony, I traced it all the way back to um, elementary school, because for me that's when everything first started. And um I was coined as a bad child growing up, right? I was a bad child. And I think I always told people that when people would ask me how my childhood was, I was like, I was a bad child. And then one day I sat there and I said, what does that even mean? We keep saying we're a bad child. We had a bad childhood. Like, what are we really saying? And when I traced it back, I was able to find the space where everything shifted for me, where I started changing. Um, and I had to, I don't know if this is on topic or not, but what I had to do is I had to actually drive back to the places that I had experienced traumatic events when I was growing up and take my power back from those places. I remember it was like midnight and I was on the road and I was driving to my hometown that I grew up in. And so by the time I got there, the sun was up and I literally went to the elementary school. Now it was summertime, so everything was closed. There wasn't no kids there. Nobody was harmed. But so I like drove to the elementary school and I stood on the playground where things happened to me. And I told that space, I was like, you no longer have power over me. And I just stood there and I felt the feelings of it. And I stared down the through the door, down the hallways, and I remembered it and I felt it and I wasn't afraid of it. I went back to the track where I used to run at, where traumatic things happened to me, and I walked the track and I told it doesn't have power over me no more. Like, I understood what I was feeling. I relived the energy and I wasn't afraid of it. It's like I took the fear back from it. I took the shame back from it. I took all of the power that those places had over me. I took it back and I felt free,
Yeah.
free from it, liberated from it.
Yeah.
So that was
Ooh.
like part of where it started, but it was like I went to war with all of those ideals I had of myself. I stripped them off of me. And I was like, that is not mine to carry. That is not mine to wear. Even if it is mine to carry, even if it is mine to wear, this is my story behind it. This is why I did it. And this is how I overcame it.
That's powerful. I felt that as you talked. That that is powerful. And
Yeah.
to walk in the strength to go back and face those whatever it was. I'm sure words that was said, things that like you said, the things that happened. And if you don't mind me
Yeah.
asking, at what age were you when you went back, if you do remember?
Yeah. So the age, so it, you know what? When I'm thinking schools were closed. This was during the pandemic time. So schools were closed. That's right. Schools were closed. So this was maybe 2020 when everything in my life really started shifting and God really, you say bravery and courage that took me there, but really it was spirit guided. It's like when I really opened myself up and surrendered myself to God, he moves me. I was in the car before I knew it, like, because he already knows what we need. So he's like, you're in the car, you're headed to these places, you're going to go to these places. I mean, I went everywhere in my hometown, old homes, schools, the track, multiple schools, just freeing myself of all of the things that I had been through. So it was 2020. So, yeah, 4 years ago. You need to know my age
No,
or
no,
just.
I'm asking that. I asked that to get to the point of when we don't address things, how long that can carry with us, and we don't realize it because I I experienced a point where I went back to a area that I experienced a lot of hurt and pain from someone a few years, honestly, around the time that you probably did. I think it was like 2020,
Mhm.
2021, something like that. And
Yeah.
all of the everything that I felt literally came back on me. It was like I was living in the moment. So to hear you say that, I know exactly what that feeling feels like and
Yeah.
how if we don't address it, how our body continues to carry it and we don't know.
Yeah.
Pain,
Yeah.
the even the feelings, the emotion, like you the rage, like all of that is
Yeah.
still within us until we take ourselves to a place where we can, like you said, be free and set free from it.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Oh, that's good.
of like when I wrote Revolutionary Mary, my book. And when you was talking initially and when you was just like, oh, I just went to war with it, like, girl, you was preaching. Okay, first of all, let's just say with that, you was preaching. But it also just made me feel as though when I wrote that book, it was like me identifying my past, like the trauma pinpointed. Where did it start? I confronted a lot of things. Like I know I put in my book, pregnancy at 16, and trying to outrun
Mm.
the shame of, oh, the stigma of, oh, she fast, she's out here. When no, that was my first time. I
Mm.
just end up, you know what I'm saying, boom, with a baby. But so I
Yeah.
definitely can relate, and I can understand too, even though I didn't go back to where a lot of things transpired. Writing the book put me there emotionally. Like I can
Mm.
vividly still remember all of the details and stuff. So yeah, that's powerful. And by you just saying like having the courage and like being spirit led to even go back to those places, the both of you, and to confront what had happened, that speaks volumes. And I really do believe that that is like the first step of coming out of the shadows. You know, you
Yes.
not dismissing what you feel, like the suppressed feelings that you have buried, and pretty much um I guess kind of shape how our behaviors show up or how affect us in our everyday adult life.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Because for me, my past experiences affected the way that I showed up. It
Yeah.
affected my confidence. It affected my self esteem. It affected the way that I interact with other people. It affected my trust of other people. It affected my ability to build relationships. It affected my ability to show up. It was stifling in so many ways. And God was showing me the call that He had over my life. And if there's no way that I could carry both.
Yeah.
He was like, these are anchors. I'm calling you to soar. And until you cut these things loose, you're going to stay right here. No matter how hard I tried to reach for him, those things were pulling me back down. And it got to a point where I couldn't run no more. I just turned around. I was like, what's up? Like, what's up? Y'all chasing me? Y'all want that smoke? I want it back. Like, what's up? Because I can't carry this no more. It's too heavy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
To look it in the eye and face it, whatever that is for everybody. Like it's so. Oh man, that's so powerful.
Yeah. I feel like 2020, like for a lot of us, was that time because pandemic was here. We were shut down. We were shut in the house. We didn't have a choice but to look at ourselves and to look at our families. And that's when we couldn't hide it behind our jobs. We wasn't busy. There was nowhere to go. We couldn't go pop up at nobody. Like we were in the house with ourselves and with our families. And I feel like for a lot of us, it was like a wake up call of the work that was being neglected because of our busy day to day routines. We started really focusing on ourselves and looking at ourselves. I know when I first started this journey, I had walked past the mirror and I didn't even recognize me. And I always say, like, it's amazing how we get in the mirror every day. We brush our teeth, we wash our face, we put our makeup on, but are we really like looking at ourselves, like looking into our soul, doing real check ins with ourselves, really knowing where we are in this season, who we are, where we're going? I don't feel like I was doing that with myself. So when I looked in the mirror, I just was like, who were you physically, emotionally, from the inside out? I did not recognize that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, of
Mm.
the facing everything and looking it in the eye, putting up ready to go to war with it. And now,
Yeah.
how have you, because those chains have been broken and those strongholds have been broken and you've been set free, how has that allowed you to now walk in the fullness of who God has called you to be?
Mm. Okay. Okay. I feel like as the chains break off. See, I sometimes I'm like I'm trying to remember because I'm so free now. It's like, how was I back then? What was I going through back then? I just feel like I'm authentic, and it's still a journey. It's still constant because I'll be thinking I'm authentically living. I'm in my truth, and God be like, deeper. You're still hiding some things, and I want it exposed. Like I want everybody to see the truth so they could see the power of me moving through somebody's life, of me changing somebody's life. They need it raw. Like tell them everything. So I want to say like it's still constant of me just being authentic. Like not being embarrassed by little things that I do. Like, I don't know if this is, but like, I was I had a strong spirit of like over analyzing myself, everything that I do, from the way my eyebrows show up, from the way my eyes show up. What is my mouth doing? What is my nose doing? What angle am I at? What did I say? How's my cadence? How's my tone? How's my posture? What are my hands doing? What, like, when I showed up into spaces, I was so concerned about every particular thing because of my background, because of my experience, because of being bullied and talked about and put down and made to feel like nothing, and just so much inside of me that I was so particular of every single detail of myself. And so here presently, I'm able to just show up. Like, I don't, almost too free, right? Because sometimes I'll be like, okay, Cheria, just take a little comb, just a little mascara. I'll be like, I'm here, what's up? So it's just allowed me to be free. It's allowed me to be authentic. It's allowed me to be true. With the freeness and the authenticity, it's allowed me to just be sensitive to God and just allow Him to use me freely. Because when you're so analyzing things, there's no space for God. There's no space for the Spirit. There's no space for a flow, because I'm in my head trying to do everything. So with this freeness that I have now, I'm able to just let God guide my words and do what He needs to do in the space.
That's good. So
That
I want to talk about like what are some of the steps that you took? Okay, I know you said initially that you went back to those places
mm,
and you confronted the past. So outside of confronting, like what steps would you give somebody who's possibly viewing this to try to, see themselves in the situation? What steps would you recommend or give them to take outside of confrontation? Well, confronting the past.
okay. Uh let's see. So when I first started my journey, it was me trying to understand myself and my past and breaking things off of me. Um, so as I started doing that, it was during the it was during the pandemic. And so one of the areas that I needed improvement is was my weight. I was significantly overweight. Um, and I had nothing but time on my hands, so I began to like move my body. I just knew I wanted to lose weight. I didn't know what to really focus on, so initially I just focused on my physical, because that I felt like that was the only thing I can control. So before I even started the journey really of unpacking my insides, I started through fitness. So I just started working out and I started moving my body. And when I first started working out, the inner critic inside of me was very loud. Um, I didn't really feel like I was doing anything positive. It was more of me like punishing myself for being overweight, punishing myself for being, I think at that time money was scarce, so financially not being prepared for COVID, punishing myself for not having it all together with my kids. I was at home with my three kids and I just felt like they was running me. I wasn't running them. So when I would work out, it was almost, I was going through a breakup at that time. Um, so when I was working out, it was like punishing myself. And at that time too, this breakup was very significant because I was holding on to it because I didn't want to. Okay, I don't know how to. Okay, okay, so I have a 16-year-old with my first love, and then I have a 6 and a 7-year-old with this the second relationship that I was in, and so I was holding on to that relationship because I didn't want to be the stereotype of two baby dads. Like, even though I knew that the relationship wasn't serving me, even though I knew that I was unhappy, even though I knew that he was a good person, I was a good person, it just really wasn't where I was supposed to be. I was holding on to it because I didn't want to be a stereotypical lady with two baby dads. And so when I was working out, I was also punishing myself for that, for not being able to make that work, for being this stereotype. There were all types of negative things going on within me. And so, um, as I was working out, I was doing that to myself, but I connected with the trainer. And so when I connected with the trainer, I had the negative inner voice going on while I was working out, but he had a positive voice going on while I was working out. So while the insides of me was like, "You're disgusting. What are you doing? You're embarrassing us. Like, how did we get here?" He was saying stuff like, "You're doing great. You're killing it. Wow, you're strong. Go. Like, yes, let's go." And I was like, one day I started listening to it and I was like, it started like waking something up inside. I started feeling good. I was like, "Oh, what?" Um, and so as I kept working with him, and he kept like pouring into me, and now I have language for it. Because see, back then I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that it kind of made me feel good. So as he was pouring into me, I started feeling good. I was like, let me try it. So when I was working out, I started talking to myself and I started like saying positive things, and I felt really good. It was like igniting something in me. So every time I would come to the track, I would feel super powerful. I would feel strong. I would feel invincible. I'd be like, what new thing am I going to prove to myself today? Um, and so, but as soon as I would leave the track from working out, the weight of the world would come back on me. And so I started asking myself, like, I want this here and there. What do I need to do in order to have that? And so I started just like asking myself questions. Well, why do we feel like this? I guess so that was the first thing. I started questioning my thoughts. I started questioning what I was saying to myself. I would ask myself, are these my words or are these somebody else's words? Like, what is the root of this? And if I do feel like this about myself, how do I want to feel about myself? And what steps can I begin taking to work towards making it there? So I no longer was okay with the inner language. It started to get uncomfortable to me. I'm like, nah, we're not saying this to ourselves. I don't want to feel like this. And so I started a lot of that. Like, what is the root of this? And I remember getting a journal and just writing it down. Okay, kindergarten, this happened. Okay, we moved and switched houses. And instead of me going to an after school program, they started making me come straight home off of the bus, and I was terrified. I never told them that because my brother was born and I know he had to go to daycare, and maybe financially, now that I'm an adult and my kids got stuff that I got to pay for, I can understand why they couldn't afford after school and I had to take the bus. But at that time I was terrified. And so that's when fear started coming in and really kind of playing a part in my life. So that was my first experience with fear. um, and so I really started tracing things back of why I moved the way I moved when I was younger, why I made the decisions that I made, and I was able to knock I was a bad child off of me. So that was like the first feeling of liberation. And after you knock off one chain off of you, it makes you hungry for more change. You like, okay, what else is connected to me that's not mine? Because hold up now. And so during that time too, I was on Instagram scrolling, and Sarah Jakes had posted something she was doing to activate. It was the first of the year. So this had to be rolling into 2021. It was the first of the year, and it was her first Thursday sermon. And I liked like what the clip sounded like. I didn't know Sarah Jakes before then, but I liked what the clip sounded like. So I was like, all right, let me tap in.
Yeah.
And so um and so it's amazing the way God works, because she was in California, and the time that she had posted, if you know, California's time zone is different than ours. So what she had posted, I logged in at that time, but nothing was happening. And I'm like, why is nothing on? Nothing is happening. And then I went on her page again and I started looking, and I realized it was different time zones. Now the Sharia I was back then would have just been like, whatever, I'm not gonna watch it. But something inside of me was like, nah, we're watching this. And so I logged back in at the right time, and that message changed my life. It's called, it's either called Bridges or Tightrope. I always, but she got on the yellow outfit. I always, because she talks about both in there. It's either Bridges or Tightrope, and it changed my life because she spoke about how we extend so many bridges to other people, right? We do so many things for other people, but we neglect to study the bridges that are inside of us, the inner workings inside of us, because that's what's important. If our bridges are not firm, then how are we to be able to provide, what the support and things that everybody else needs? And so it confirms what I already was trying to do inside of me. And I remember crying it was like I remembered what it felt like to have God in my life, because I grew up in the church. So I already had the foundation. So it's like when I watched her sermon, it reignited what was already inside of me.
Yeah.
And I remember I tithed that day. I only had $8 in my account, if I'm being honest. I had $8 in my account. And that $8 could have did a lot for me. But I was like, I'm about to I'm about to get this. I'm about to give this $8. Cause she had said something. She had asked for a tithe in the first part, and I got busy. Y'all know I was acting like I was doing something when she asked for the first offering. I can't remember. I was like, let me go put these dishes in the sink. But the sermon, like, it ministered to me. And so at the end, she was like, if that's your word, she came back around. And she was like, so into this. And I was like, oh, I was like, I only got $8. I don't never know what. I might need some tissue, some something.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna sew it. And so I sewed it. And at that time I was behind in my rent, right? But I had applied for some program called Ramp Charlotte at that time that was helping people who were struggling because of finances during that time. Within a week of me tithe or giving offering and really starting to lock back in with God, the program sent me an email and said that not only were they going to cover the month I had requested, but they were going to cover the past months and the following month, and they were going to pay my energy bill
Come on.
off an $8 time, and that was like a $9,000 turnaround. It wasn't like small change, and I'm like, what? So after that, I'm locked in. I'm like, okay, okay, when's the next sermon, when's the next offering? And I started giving. And during the pandemic, I didn't want for anything. Like, I was taken care of, and it changed my perspective with tithes and offerings. Like, I had never been the tithe and offering person, but after that moment and seeing how God really moved and worked in my life, and the reward, I don't think that's the right word,
That's the
the
right
fruit,
word.
okay, the fruit of
Yeah.
my tithe and offering wasn't always
Yeah.
financial.
Yeah.
So when I say I didn't want for anything, I'm talking about spiritually, I'm talking about emotionally, because I was going through dark times during that time. Um, but God always had me. He always found a way to meet me in some way or another. And I'm so thankful for him during that time. So what I would say I did is I started questioning my thoughts. It wasn't no more, oh, it is what it is. That's just how I am. No,
Ooh,
I
come
started questioning that.
on.
I started moving my body.
Mm-hmm.
I started just shaking some stuff up inside of me, getting some stuff off of me. I I I I fasted. I sacrificed. And when I say I fasted, like, if I'm being honest, during the pandemic time, it wasn't really nothing to do.
Yeah.
I was in the house just having a little drinky drink, just having a good time, right? And so during that time of me really getting into my fitness and really monitoring the things that I was putting in my body, I wasn't doing those things. And so I wasn't doing those things, and I was asking God to reveal in me the things that I needed to change. So all of the changes, all of the revelations, all of the things that I was experiencing were raw. There was nothing to numb it. There was nothing to distract it. There was nowhere to run. Everything was closed. I literally was in the house going to war with these thoughts and these feelings and these emotions. And I was doing a lot of it alone. I remember it was like 3 o'clock in the morning one time, and the spirit just of defeat was on me so heavy. And I remember fighting back. And there's this song, oh, I mentioned now, oh, I believe, oh, I believe. And I remember like chanting that song to the top of my lungs at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was living in an apartment at that time. I know my neighbors was like, I don't know what's going on over there, but the spirit is moving. And I want to say it's an exorcism. because I refuse for these feelings and these emotions to be on me. Like I really wanted it. Um, so I, so also I would say, strengthening my relationship with God and the Holy Spirit and understanding Jesus and his walk and his sacrifices to help me along this journey of really coming out of the shadows and recognizing that I can do anything through him. Anything. He doesn't fear anything. The spirit of fear is not of him, so it should not be of me. So if it's within me, just surrendering that to him and really allowing him to just come in and get me through these things which I thought I never would get through.
That's good.
Out of the shadows.
Hmm.
Out of the
Out
shadows.
of the shadows. Powerful.
Yeah.
It is. And it just reminds me, like, God just, he uses things that we're going through, like you said, during the pandemic. You have nothing but you in your house and all of the things that you was trying to escape by being busy, by working, all of the excuses that you once had. He stripped them away and he's like, okay, now it's time to really get down. Now it's time to do the work. Let's dig deep. Cause I want you out. Like I want you out. And that just goes back to what he said of concerning out the dark and stepping into the light. Like it's a mandate when he puts a demand on it, like he means business.
Yeah.
You know how they be like, oh, we standing on business. God really be standing on business,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
up to us to apply the pressure and do the work. It's hard,
Mm-hmm.
but once you get out on the other side, it's like looking back. Dang, I should have been up out of here. Like dang, I should have
Mm-hmm.
been free. So I also want to talk about. T sent me a podcast you was recently on, and you was talking about what you're doing now. So I want to kind of just change the gear a little bit to
Okay.
kind of talk about how are you incorporating your first love of, I guess you can expand on that as well about the fitness and movement.
Yeah. So when I first went to school,
Hmm.
I went to school to become an athletic trainer. Like that was always my goal, always my dreams to be an athletic trainer for an NFL team.
Hmm.
Like that was my passion.
Okay.
But I fell in love
NFL.
and I got pregnant with my firstborn, my 16-year-old.
Hmm.
And so something inside of me, like when that happened, it just I felt like that dream, I couldn't have that dream anymore. Like that wasn't realistic. And so I immediately just started going to work and I became a 411 operator. I don't know if y'all know what 411 is now, this new generation, but I used to be the one people would call before we had Google and cell phones.
Hmm.
And I would say city and state and they would tell me the location and I would tell them the phone number. And so I was doing that for a while and it was pretty good money until one day I was just like, no, you know what? I want to go get in school. Like I want to get back in school.
Hmm.
And so I moved away, me and my daughter, and I got back in school, but I started going to school for social work. Because in my mind, I needed to sit behind a desk. Like I needed to have a desk job. I got a child. Like we can't be running around. And so I went through the whole thing and I went through the social work program, which was really good for me because that was healing as well. It helped me to understand myself. It helped me to understand others. It helped me to begin forgiving others. So like in hindsight, this journey was always going. It was like
All
just
tied
different
in.
levels to it.
Hmm.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
And so I went on to get licensed and I've been doing therapy for a while and I'm really good at it. I'm an amazing therapist. I have the ability to connect and do really well. But when the pandemic happened, all of that stopped. It was like skirt. Like I know that a lot of people experienced tremendous loss during the pandemic time, and I don't take that lightly. But for me, I feel like God granted me the pandemic as a space to begin this really cultivating me and building me up and strengthening me for what he was doing, what he was about to do or already doing in my life. And so during the pandemic, like I said, I started moving my body and I remembered because when I was in school, the way that I was able to make it through is because I ran track. I was on the track and I was really good. I love track. I ran track all season long. And I can remember that when I would run, everything was quiet. Nothing mattered. I wasn't thinking about being bullied. I wasn't thinking about the things I was going through. I was just thinking, I'm going to win this race. If there is one thing in my life I can control this race because I'm coming in first. And so I remember, so when I started moving my body and working out, that fire and that passion I had in me started coming alive. And I didn't feel dead anymore. I didn't feel worthless anymore. Like when I was working out, I felt my purpose. I felt my power. Like I felt the things that I used to feel when I was younger. And so I was like, God, what is this? What are we doing? And I started posting my workouts and I started posting the things I was doing because I was proud of it. And it started speaking to people. And they were like, teach me, show me. What do you I'm like, teach you, show you. Man, what you talking about? And so, but I just kept posting. I told people, no, come join me at this gym. Come join me over here. Come join me over here. And they were like, okay. So, along me working out, I started doing some things independently. I started transitioning from working out just strictly with my trainer to working out independently. And at that time, I was very protective over over what I was feeding my mind and my ears. And so when I would work out, I would play gospel music. And it wasn't really nothing to me. I just felt like I was just playing gospel music. I would go in the gym, I would put my playlist on shuffle, and I would just let it ride. And what started happening was like when I would put my playlist on, even though I had heard these songs millions of times, when I would put that playlist on and put it on shuffle, God would minister to me through the music. Whatever I was going through, whatever I was experiencing, whatever I needed to hear from Him, He would organize those songs to deliver it. And so I started, so now when I talk about wanting to, the feeling of that power, not only when I was working out, but wanting it when I left the gym, now, oh, I was on. He would speak to me. He would fill me up. He would give me strategy. He would give me love. He would give me healing. He would tell me how to handle these kids. He would give me positive energy. He would give me whatever. He would give me energy to make it through the day. Whatever I needed, he would provide it for me. So when I would leave the gym, I carried that thing all the way through the day into the night. And I was like, oh shoot, what is this? So I started like ready for the next, like, did I already work out today? Oh, I did. Okay, tomorrow I will be ready for the next workout so that I could have an encounter with God, like so that He could speak to me, so that I could hear from Him. Because this is before I knew like encounters can happen anywhere. At this time, this was me and God's meeting place. It was the only place, like I heard Him the loudest when I was there. Like when I was working out, when the gospel music was on, it's like He was speaking straight directly to me. And that was always one of my biggest prayers. Like, I want to hear your voice like everybody else says. Everybody else says they hear from you, they get a word from you. Like, I want to hear you personally in that manner. And so that started to be my story. And as I started doing that, I started feeling the desire to share that with other people. I started feeling this desire, like if people knew what happens when you blend God and fitness, like this would change everybody's life. There was something inside of me that it just made sense. Like everybody needs this. And so, for me right now, God is really showing me how to put it in motion, um, how to market it to people, how to bring it to life. Um, and so that is where I am now. I can't remember the original question because I got it all
It's
up in
fine.
there.
You answered it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's amazing. And when I heard you say that, I was just like, oh my God, it's just God is just so out the box. Like, and how he keeps himself relevant, and how he is just so he can just relate to you on any level that you're on. He can use anything that you love to get his word to you, to talk to you, to get his point across. Like, it's just, that's so God. Come on.
Yes.
Who works out and get a word? Come on. That is so,
Yes.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes. And it's just like track is, it's just the way, it's the intricate nature that God works. And I really could sit here and talk all day about the ways that he shows up for me. Like, to know that like track was my love. And I didn't even know that I was hurt by not going to the Olympics until I was talking to somebody and I was sharing with them. I was like, yeah, I always wanted to go to the Olympics, but I never did. And I just started boohoo crying. And I was like, wow, you wanted to go that bad? And myself was like, yeah, girl, like we really wanted to go. And I just released that. So for the meeting place, like the breaking ground for me and God to be at the track, like where he started like meeting me, where he started like really showing me that fitness is still my power. It may not show up in the way that I thought it was, but I don't have to put it down. Like I can pick it back up and I can bless others with it and I can bless myself with it and I can heal through it. Like the very thing that broke me in a sense. It was not till this year that I could actually watch track on TV. Like I watched the Olympics track and field because it hurt too bad. It was too painful. And I think what helped me to be able to do that is my kids love track. So now they started running this year. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to go to the track meets, but I'm actually like at the track meets and cheering them on and just like reliving the joy. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't sting. So it's just amazing how God is meeting me back at the space that he saved me in before and he saved me in now. And it's a part of what he's doing in my life. Like it's always been a part. So
And that's exactly what I was about to ask because seeing your kids run track, like how does that now show up for you? Um, so that's exactly where
yeah,
I was gonna say.
it's a blessing. And my youngest, she's actually like really good. Like she went to nationals this year. She's only 6
Oh,
and went to nationals this year. It's only her first year running and placed top 8 in the nation for 6-year-olds.
that's
And I just kind of was like, I'd be like, go girl, like saying it like I already know it's inside of her, but inside of me, I'd be like, oh my God. Like
yeah,
I was not going to nationals at 6 years old. So I'm like, God, what are we doing? Like, you got a little special treat for me in here? He's like, yeah, you're still gonna experience it, but maybe just in a different way. And that's one thing that I've learned that's helped me too is just to be moldable. Like to know if he puts something inside of me, it may not show up in the way that I thought it is, but to trust and be open to the way that he makes it happen and it shows up because I I enjoy watching her do it. Like it's okay if I didn't go. Like that's still amazing. So just being open to receive what he gives me and not being so just stuck in my own way that I can't see the blessing in what he's giving
Right,
me.
right. And even to that extent, and I know this may be way far left, but even to our audience, because you never know where people are in their own journeys. But I think the fact that you were able to address that, and now you can show up for your child in a space of healing and not bitterness. Because sometimes for
Mm,
parents, it can come out as bitterness. Oh, my kid is where I want it to be, but because I didn't get there, it's hard for them to show up. It's hard for them to show congratulations to their child. So I think even in that space, if any parent who's watching, that may be an area where God wants to start.
yeah, yeah,
that's,
that is true.
and then like you said, it's like you have cultivated the space that you wanted for yourself. You now have cultivated that for your children.
Yeah.
Mm,
So there is healing, um, and it's kind of like you broke that generational issue, so that they
mm.
can now. You pretty much like you didn't pass the baton. You know what I mean? And now she's running
Yeah.
on. So that's
Mm,
amazing. That's amazing. Just to be like T said, to show up for her, for your children in all aspects, and then like they're doing something that you're passionate about, but you're seeing them flourish and going further than what you have done. So
yes.
that's amazing. Girl, I be
Yes.
my shirt. I would have all the paraphernalia. I would have a shirt,
Yes, I
I would bring
do.
headbands back. We're wearing
Yes.
headbands, all the merch, okay?
Yes.
So that's amazing.
Yes, I be having to walk away from my family like when we be watching the events because they don't be taking it serious enough for me. So I gotta go sit somewhere separate. I'll be leaning forward. I'll be watching. I'll be having my stopwatch out.
Yeah.
Like I'll be so just into it, and passionate about it.
Yeah.
So it makes me happy. It makes them happy for me to be able to be in tune, in that way and to be able to show up in that way. So, yeah, I would say if any parents are feeling the bitterness or feeling those feelings in their heart, that it's normal. Just in your time, like acknowledge them to yourself.
Yeah.
Try to understand why you feel like that. Ask God to come into that space and to heal you so that you can show up for your kids without the bitterness. But I want you to know that it's normal. Like that's a natural reaction, but it doesn't have to be your story.
That's
You don't have to keep that feeling inside of you. You can acknowledge it. You can tell yourself you know that it's there, and you have the power to surrender it to God and ask Him in turn to give you healing in that space. Yeah.
that's good. Well, Miss Morgan, Cheria, we
Yes.
thank you once again for coming on
Yes.
Out the Dark and speaking on Out of the Shadows. And hopefully, those
Yes.
parents and our viewers and our audience can just take what you said, apply that to your everyday life, like I really feel. And I know I heard God say it's time to step into the light. And how else you gonna do that? You got to come out of the shadows. You got to confront the past, whatever it is that's keeping you bound. So, any last words, ladies?
Yes. This is on my spirit, but I was just gonna say that when God first gave me out of the shadows, I immediately wanted to take it and start running. I was like, oh, out of the shadows means I need to start helping people. I need to start putting things together. But what he showed me is out of the shadows was actually for myself first. I had to come out of the shadows within myself first. So I had to do the work myself to be comfortable coming out of the shadows before I actually stepped out of the shadows. I had to come out of the shadows within myself, if that makes sense.
The
So
purpose.
I kept trying to pour. I kept trying to, oh, it's time for me to come out of the shadows. And God kept yanking me back. No, yourself. Stop giving. This is yourself. So for me, out of the shadows first was me stepping out of the darkness that was inside of me, purging myself of all those things that no longer serve me, changing my perspective, changing the narrative within myself, like really living it authentically, whether I'm in front of the camera or whether I'm behind. Because what I would do is I would be out of the shadows on the camera, but then when I come back home, I'm under the blanket, under the covers, not feeling adequate, not feeling worthy. So what God said, this movement here, the same way that you show up in every setting is the same way you're going to walk through your door and go into your house. So before I was able to step out of the shadows, there was some work and some shifts that had to go on within myself so that now, no matter what space I'm in, home or the public, I'm the same me. I believe it through and through. So I just want to say, like, it's okay to step out of the light for a second and allow your out of the shadows moment to be within yourself, to truly believe it and birth it within yourself and to build a strong foundation and belief system and really be guided by the Holy Spirit and allow God to work through you so that when you're stepping out, you're realizing you're not stepping out on your own strength. This is God driven. This is the Spirit driving you. You are walking with Christ. He is protecting you. And every moment that you are engaged in is not random, it's not coincidental, it is divine. And there's a different type of power that comes when you are stepping divinely. So, out of the shadows first starts within, and then you go out into the world. You first. Fill your cup first.
I love that. I think I would say because I know Miss Sharia has shared this in almost an hour, but this is a process and a journey. I think a lot of times we hear somebody's story and it sounds like everything happened immediate. But knowing that it took however many years for you to have the thought process that you have, go through the pain that you went through. So giving yourself grace in the healing process and not beating yourself up because you aren't healing as fast as you think you should be healing, or you haven't reached this mark yet where you feel like you should have already reached. So giving yourself grace. And if I could just throw in there, as she stated, she is a therapist. So I'm gonna throw it back to you right quick, and then throw it back to Crystal to give her ending. If anybody wanted to reach out to you as far as therapy, where can they reach out to you at?
Okay. So I am a faith-based mental health therapist. Um, to reach out to me, I always struggle with this part. You can call me, really, text me. Um, I have do I say like what I accept? Like if you're in the state of North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
I accept most insurances. So I have an opportunity for you to connect with me if you use insurance. If you are a private pay or self pay, I also have a self pay platform on a sliding scale. Um, where I kind of work with you where you are at. Um, I accept North Carolina clients, but I also accept out of state clients. Just not insurance. If you are seeking to do insurance, you'll have to find a therapist that accepts yours. But if you are willing to do self pay, I accept out of state clients. Um,
Through what
so
platform? Is it a particular is it a
for
particular platform, or can they reach out to you maybe on like a social media? If you just if you don't want to give your number on this, but if like maybe a social media platform that they could reach out to you at.
yes, so my social media for my therapy is Out of the Shadows is the name of the platform. Uh it is underscore out of the shadows underscore.
I love it. I feel a
So
giveaway coming.
yes. If you reach out to me there, I'll probably just give you my phone number, but but yeah, because what I like to do is I like to do a consultation first to make sure that you're a good fit for me and I'm a good fit for you. Therapist is like what they say, finding a therapist is like finding a good pair of shoes.
I swear to
Every therapist ain't gonna be your thing, but don't give up.
Yeah.
You gotta find who works for you because it should be easy to talk to your therapist. There should be a flow. Now there is gonna be some times where you feel uncomfortable, but that's natural, right? Growth happens when we're uncomfortable. But there should be growth taking place. There should be exchanges taking place. So you don't have to stay with a therapist. If it's not your thing, move on. But yeah, so I like to do a consultation first before we get started.
well, thank you. I feel a giveaway coming on because we
Yes.
talk about mental health here. So,
Yes.
um, yes, I'm probably we're gonna put it together. I feel a giveaway coming on, and I'm so
Eh,
glad that you do accept out of state because I live in Alabama, so and some of our viewers are from here. We did a giveaway one time, um, for therapy session. I think it's time.
okay.
It's time to
I
get
love
it.
that.
So I'm
Yes.
excited, and thank
Yes.
you again for coming on Out the Dark. It means a lot, especially our first episode of the season.
Yeah.
You're our first,
Yes.
so this is
Let's go.
I'm excited. Like you said, this season is called stepping into the light, and so like you said,
Yes.
we starting it off with stepping out of the shadows. Like you said, get yourself together first because I feel like even with out of the shadows, it's a mandate. He never said
Yeah.
come out of the shadows. He never said come
Mm-mm.
out the dark. He
Mm-mm.
specifically said out of the shadows and out the
Mm-hmm.
dark. So it's
Yep.
a mandate. It's a
It
mandate.
is. It is.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Y'all know where to
Yeah.
find Miss Morgan. Okay. She said, what Kim possibly said, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. She said, let me know. She said, let me know. And also hit us up. I'm telling you, we are going to have a giveaway. I just really feel that. We starting the
Yes.
season off strong. So we will see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.